Are there any changes? All right, hearing none, then I need a motion that we approve the agenda as presented. Motion by Linda, second by Heath, all in favor? It is approved. I'm going to ask you would to please stand as Sparky is going to lead us,
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to gather here, make decisions for our school system. I pray that you would give us guidance, wisdom, and courage as we make these decisions. I pray that you would watch over our students and our staff as they come back to school in a few weeks. And I just want to thank you again for all the new blessings that you give us. Be with us. Help us do your will. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Next item is the consent items. You've got a copy of the minutes for July 12th. There's a few changes on that. Hearing none, then I need a motion that we approve the consent items as presented. Motion by Heath.
Second.
Second by Sparky, all in favor? It is approved. Next item is the superintendent's report.
Okay, this first under operational effectiveness, first of all, I want to say and welcome everybody that's here. We've even got all our directors, all our principals. If I'm not mistaken, this is probably the first time since probably about February of 2020. So it's been, let's see, this is August, so you're looking at 18 months that we've had everyone here. So we're glad that everybody's here and in one room. So we're glad for that. Moving right along under operational effectiveness, the first thing is that we have food service bids, and you have them there before you fill out Mayfield areas and Whitco Produce.
Any questions on this? Maybe you got anything you want to add to this?
We need some motion.
If not, then I need a motion that we approve the food service bids as presented. Motion by Sparky, second by Heath, all in favor? It is approved.
All right, next on our agenda, we have the Murray County High School track bids. You have those before you have an Excel spreadsheet. You have, of course, you have the big bid sheet, and then you have another tabulation with all three bidders on there. I think the question was at the last meeting we had three bidders: BJ Reed Construction, Nico Builders, and Sports Turf. And at the last meeting, I think the general consensus was to eliminate Miko since they were the high bidder, even though they were local. So when BJ Reed and Sports Turf was kind of where we were at. So you have those before you, and you have a base bid of each one, alternate one, alternate two, payment of the farmer's market, and then if you look at page 3, you can see various comparisons, various options of alternate 1 and alternate 2. There's not an alternate 3 on the comparison sheet on page 3 because really that's a slot that's really a non-issue there because it was a completion date and only one of the bidders put in an amount for that, and so it's really not a non-factor. So alternate 3 is off the table. So really we have 2 bidders. Base bid, alternate 1, track service, going from a 5-year to a 10-year warranty track, and then alternate 2 is the payment of the farmer's market.
Any questions on this?
You say that Which one was the dirt included in? One or two?
I'm sorry, what?
The 200 loads of dirt that we were discussing the other day, is that in all of them, one or two?
Alternate two. That's the farmer's market.
And that's the one we're assuming Sports Turf just took the gamble on that was going to be done.
That was the assumption,
To
yes.
save those 200 truckloads, they just get it from there, whereas Reed and Nico or whoever had planned on probably trucking it in.
That's right. They didn't put in their base bid because they didn't know what the board was gonna do with that alternate.
Okay, so it's just assuming, we don't know where that can get you, but if they use that farmer's market without hauling in the dirt, then there's possible savings there.
Correct.
Plus, there's possible savings in off of it too, because they're gonna be getting the dirt there and they'll compare that with paving at the same time.
Mhm.
So that 200 and some odd thousand dollars could actually be a lot less
That's correct.
at the end of the day. If they don't truck the dirt, do the work there and do those, or they'll do dirt and snow.
Well, is the difference 200,000? It's not 200,000.
Depends on what you pick up. Depends on what you're comparing. If you're just comparing the base bids, no, the difference is 135. If you compare the alternate one, it's 135 plus 56, as you see on page 2. And then if you do number 2, it's $27,000 is the difference. So it just depends on what, you've got three options there.
Alternate one, the difference is 191,000. Alternate two, the difference is 163,000.
Alternate
Alternate one, the base bid between 2.1 million and 993 is 135,557. And then, so it depends on what combination, what you're doing. You got there's various options here, so.
Would it not make more sense to go with alternate two and go ahead and prepare the farmer's market, even if we're not gonna pave it now, because we know that parking lot's gotta be paved in a year or two?
It does need it.
It's gonna cost you more if you prepare it later when you pave the parking lot, correct?
Correct.
The advantage is, you got some value in the dirt and the farmer's market, so the advantage is to get it now, to either use it on the track, or you could get some later to use at the site preparation at the high school and all that's done, but either you wouldn't have to cross the road to see if you get it now. And now we did, talk about, taking out the paving and striping, and we can work on that later. The paving and striping is worth about $42,000. So if you did, you took out the dirt, put the gravel and everything around there and got ready to pave, but you didn't pave. You just waited till you paved the whole parking lot at one time with the county. So, you got 42,000, an estimated value. It's not exact. We have to, whichever bidder is chosen, we'll have to work with them on an exact amount for the paving. But that's a general estimate of about $42,000 for the paving. So you can back that out of alternate two, on both of them, and then, not pave it now, and get the county to pave it later, which would, you're just guessing, you figure materials and labor, it's always about half and half, so if it's 42,000, probably the material to pave is 24 or 5.
What about in the spreadsheet that Buckley gave us? It says that the base is to be constructed of sand and dirt. Did he specify a thickness on that? 2 inches, 6 inches?
No. If he did, I'd have to reread that book, to be honest with you.
I didn't see it, I just wondered if I missed it.
Right, and I can't tell you that I hadn't read it in its entirety, so I couldn't speak to that one particular item.
So we don't know if one of them's quoting 2 inches of dirt and the other's quoting 6.
I don't know the
You don't know
answer.
the answer.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, to be honest with you.
Whichever, whatever's no matter if it's dirt and sand, whatever, for the track surface, you know, it's gotta be tested with the Mexico, that's the compaction test. So with the global, who's it, global, who's the third?
Geohydro will be the company.
They're the third party testers, right?
Any further questions?
Well, that was one of the other lines, so. But I don't know, I mean, if, is that, the road, you know, to go up, if it's, you know, you can go, or something else, come up with something else.
All right.
The other thing, sorry, I
Go
forgot
ahead.
one thing. Did you inquire about what it costs to resurface the 5-year warranty track versus the 10-year?
I have not, and I've not done it personally in the past, so I couldn't really give you a reference on, you know, what that would cost.
So indirectly, they're one of my customers,
Mhm.
and the cost to resurface the 5-year warranty is $75,000. The cost to resurface the 10-year warranty is $200,000. So if you just did the math, if they both fell apart at the warranty, you could resurface the 5-year one twice for less than you could resurface the 10-year one. And that's just a matter of material. It's a different density crumb rubber
Mhm.
that fits tighter together with a different binder to give the 10-year warranty versus the 5.
But if you,
It is a better surface, but you're talking about the 10-year warranty is what they put on D1 tracks. We're not gonna see the traffic if D1 track sees that way, even if we start having track meets.
if you, now, when you resurface, you're talking about, you gotta take that the road and reapply the road,
You resurface a binder on top.
you just pour it back on. I mean, and I don't know how that compares, we got a budget number of the cost of the material on the track versus the Binion, which is the 5-year warranty is the Binion BSS 100 13 millimeter, and it's an estimated cost on that, just the surface is $214,000.
Right.
And then the cost of the 10-year estimate is $359.
Right.
So I mean, it's the difference of $140,000. So I mean, I don't know about 75, I mean, it's $214 to put it down, but if you resurface, it's only 75.
And if you resurface the 3, whatever, it's
The
200.
Binion 1,000.
Correct. Because they don't have to take the whole track up. It's basically a cap valve.
All right, any further questions? What's the board's wishes? Want to make a motion, or one together?
I would make a motion to go with alternate 2 with being JV Construction.
What about base bid or alternate 1?
With the base bid in the paving farmer's market.
Deducting the pavement from the farmer's market or paving?
Paving the farmer's market.
Deducting the
Not
pavement.
paving it, getting it ready, getting the dirt there, getting it gravelled, paving it when we pave the parking lot.
So, okay. So you don't have an exact amount, it would just be an amount not to exceed, because we don't know what the value of the pavement would be.
Not paving it.
That's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
we don't know what that
Okay.
value is, you have to be an amount not to exceed.
Right.
If we, that 42,000 is just the best. So,
But we agreed it's gonna be less expensive to get it ready now than go back and get it ready when we pave the entire parking lot, correct? Is that not what we just said?
if you get the dirt out around the park, around the park.
Which will reduce,
No matter what you do, which with you BJ Reed or Sports Truck, the better option is to get the dirt out from the farmer's market now. Yeah, you need to take option alternate two, no matter
Right.
who.
minus the pay.
Minus the pay and then an amount to be determined.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you get the dirt from around the farmer's market, that's what B and J did not count on doing. They counted on bringing in all of that, correct?
That's correct, because
So that-
because it's an alternate.
So that lowers that cost.
We assume, so we don't know.
Okay, so you're recommending for B and J Reed for the base bid and alternate two?
Correct. Minus the pay.
Yeah. That's the Target. Is that the Target, service?
Both of them are Target services. That's just less expensive.
Yeah, Mike's got them, right?
BS 100, BS 1000.
And I think, if I'm not, and I could be, and I don't know
See the difference?
example, I think you can can't you get either one in black or red? I'm not sure.
I think you can. Can't you get either one?
Yeah, you can,
I
I think you can surface them in any color. They-
Yeah, you can't, yeah, I mean, it has to be black or red, it can't be purple or something. I think it's black or red.
What's, sorry,
Just say these are.
It's a good question. I think,
That's why I said.
here again, I'm thinking it's been 12 years. It's something like maybe the BS, it's not the 10-year, but it's that BSS 200. It's like one above this one, but I'm not sure. It's been 12 years.
Have you ever resurfaced it?
Not yet. No, it's been that 10 years.
Roger,
Which
you got
one's
this
the-
notice?
I wasn't there when they installed it, I waited a year later.
Been that long?
Y'all,
I thought we were
I think it's gonna be for 200, but I wouldn't testify that in court.
It might be the step above the 100,
Yes.
but they didn't give us that option on this one. You're saying what's it about?
We can pick whatever you want to on this. We just specified 2 options.
I got you.
Now, we can specify 3 or 4, but my thought was, we've had a little difficulty here with 2 options, and so if we had 3 or 4 options, you know, so. But you don't have to, determine just to compare, so everybody's quoting the same thing on the services. You can always go back and put a different copy on there. That's not, you can change that up to, get ready to, they you commit with one thing, and they get ready to put it down. You probably don't have to commit sooner than that, 'cause they gotta get the material. But you can change, and right here, I mean, we have, and these are estimates, just as what the different costs of the toppings, surfaces are. But we kind of hit the average of.
But alternate track surface 1 is the 10-year warranty, and in the first bid, it's 261,000 additional, and the third one is 240,000 additional. Right?
That's right. Yeah, that's the,
So the math comes into play for me there, if you're talking about resurfacing. I mean, you can resurface the base bid twice cheaper than you can resurface the alternate bid once. Does that make sense?
now, yeah. We don't know.
In 5 years,
Any further questions? I've got a motion from Sparky, for bids they agreed for the base bid and the alternate two, minus the paving. I got a second.
I'll second.
Second by Heath. All in favor? Any opposed?
What you,
I'm not gonna vote on, I'm not, yeah. I'll vote no.
you vote no.
Yeah.
All right, so it's 3-2. All right.
Excuse me, who voted that? Conrad, Aaron, Rick,
All right. We will move on. Motion.
Well, yeah. Well, we've sit on this thing for so long, I mean, this track has been able to be fixed for years. And the longer we wait, probably more expensive it could be. This is probably the first time in history this is gonna happen, but
If I amended my motion to include alternate surface one instead of the base bid, would that be?
I'm good with either one of the services. I think there's a lot of kind of
Just had to ask.
Yeah, I just don't know if we'll make it for 163 grand. Sure that's what it is. Because you're saying alternate two and base, right?
minus the pay, yeah.
So did anybody, well, how about it this way? Alternate number one, how many votes for alternate number one? Yes, 10 service.
That's why I asked if I amended it to include that.
Well, your neighbor likes alternate one.
I like the surface, but the difference will pay through our number one. The difference in the construction's gonna pay to get the superior track.
Chris, do you know what the dollar figure is on the dirt if you get it from the farmer's market versus hauling it in? Because that's the number.
Well, roughly speaking, it's a difference of about 2,012 cubic yards, which equates to about 200 tandems worth of dirt, a lot of dirt.
Which equates to 200 tandems times.
Roughly, you're talking about, and I'm throwing numbers out here, you're probably talking about $75,000, depending on where you truck it from. It's a lot of money.
So 75 minus what, 163?
Yeah, but you can't feel it, you can't base it on the average. It's not, well,
I don't think so either.
without going back.
You're right.
Well, you gotta pick somebody, you can always, be E and do 50 things, but you can't, you gotta pick a contractor, because if you, either that or you reject all the bids and everybody's done.
We do it.
Because you have to be careful unless you have the bids, then you go back to one that's only
Can't just say one interview.
That's it.
No, everybody.
Whether you accept one or you reject them all. That's what it's at.
How long do we do that?
The bid, you have to bid for 30 days. That's be out 30 days. Because it's over 100 days. Which these have, so. But if you rebid again, y'all get the county and start back. 30 days now, we have to. So, we could, let's have a call meeting sometime in September. I need some direction as to what I'm rebidding. You know, I mean, I'm doing. The other option you could do, if you don't want, take your leave or reject all bids, you can do CM list and incorporate it into the high school project. Yet to do that. And they would bid as subs and that. So.
Mr. Lambridge,
Yes, ma'am.
I don't want to speak out of turn.
Oh,
But my goal is that we get a track, we get it moving, and that our kids can participate and we can host home track meets. So on my end of things, who wins the bid or whatever is, I just need the track going and I need the track moving. So something I would like the board to consider, and again, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I've just been sitting back here thinking about it, and we would really like to have that track on the inside turfed so we can host soccer matches there. If we have $100 and something extra $1,000 to put toward the track, I would like for that to be taken into consideration, that the money be spent to turf it, because we're doing all of the irrigation to surf the track, or, so we can later turf it. So just something to consider. $100 and something thousand would go a long way toward turfing the track if we have that kind of money.
Turfing the inside.
Turfing the inside of the track
You can
down
probably
there.
pay for that, get rid of the regular grass that we got to buy, plus the sprinkler system.
So I just wanted to mention that for consideration.
We've got some, we do have
Because they specified a certain tip turf or whatever.
we got drain leaders, we got it so it's all drains outside, and that was the preparation for the underlayment, the amount of sand and the rock and everything.
It's a whole different.
That would have, this is a whole different problem.
So if we were going to do that during this construction, it could be a total rebuild.
For the inside part, yeah. And I think we discussed it, turf. Chris got most experience recently when they put some turf down. I know they replaced the field turf at North Party, but that was a warranty item, so we don't know.
I did one.
County, just the turf, not the under was what?
Yeah, I did 2 years ago. And it had a turf field on it. We took it up, put a new turf field down, it was $610,000 what it cost. And it already had turf on
The base cost money, but taking that stuff up.
You're gonna get some savings by, some will come off.
Yeah.
Good call. Before that. But it is, if we did everything we could under this phase to make it less expensive down the road, if field turf is ever to be put on. Without drugs, it's like you can go down the road and then there's a fork. And then when you get to the fork, you gotta pick one or the other. We did everything we could to make it less expensive to put field turf on. Now,
But it's kinda like that farmer's market, though.
that's right.
It'd be cheaper, if you're gonna do it, it'd be cheaper to do it now.
Absolutely.
So we're,
Yeah. Would we end up, I think we for alternate one? Alternate one.
You talking about the 10-year track? Yeah. I remember the 10-year track. And Greg,
You and Greg and Conrad were on alternate one.
Okay.
If that answers the question, I understand.
Yeah, which I'm fine with the majority votes. I'll put alternate one. I ain't letting the alternate one hold anything else with it.
and I can, I know we're all in the two on the track, but I just can't justify, the difference there in the construction cost. And I'd love to be able to give it to the local guy to do the work, but that's a lot of money, I just can't, in good faith. Or would that be it? Okay, to change it, is that what you're saying?
No, I'm still about where I was at.
and just to clarify for me, I don't believe that's the difference. I don't believe that's the number. It's why I made the recommendation I made.
Well,
Based on,
we're down here with these.
okay.
But we ain't got that far. We still have a gap on that bridge.
All right.
You need some help, Chris, to,
You wanna do anything different or move on? What do you wanna do? What do you want to do?
I'm going to that.
It's three, we have, basically it boils down to, we have three, for BJ Reed and base bid, alternate two, minus paving and striping of the farmer's market, and three for sports turf, alternate one and alternate two, minus paving and striping. That's where it is. Where it is.
Well,
Yeah.
I can do
Right.
alternate one or alternate one and two or alternate two.
I'm just, that's what we voted, just to recap, where we voted.
If we decide to revisit this thing again, I don't wanna wait till September to do this again. We're missing 30 more days. I know we've got fall meetings coming up, and I don't know if we address it then,
Yeah,
or if we can have another fall meeting.
these are good for 35 days from the day we opened them up, this was last Thursday. I'm not mistaken, I got it right here. We verified that. 30 to 35 days, so you could take it up at the August that we get to publish, but the August 19th hearing, you could vote it just.
Okay, you said, sports turf, base bid, 10-year, and then the 89
No,
times
no,
the.
no, I said what we voted on, what was voted was sports turf base bid plus alternate one, plus alternate two.
Minus the
Minus the
pay.
payment. That
Which is
was,
42,000.
yeah, that was
Okay. Well,
2,245,267. This is what that total comes to.
yeah.
What was that total?
That total was 2,245,267.
And the other total?
The other total is, we just have that one total up here. That was. It's.
That was 204, and that's just a difference of 42,000. Okay, did you add in the alternate ones to that?
I did alternate, the base bid plus alternate one plus alternate two. If you just make apples to apples, you subtract out 42,000. And that's the answer. That's still not, I mean, that's the same, 2,765,000 forward.
Can I make a motion to table this vote until you get some more information?
What more information would you like?
Well, to make sure we're comparing apples to apples on every
What,
part of
such
this,
as?
such as the dirt moving, whether they're quoting 2 inches of dirt versus 4 inches of dirt versus 6 inches of dirt. Nobody has the answer to those questions. If one of them is quoting 6 inches of dirt, the other's quoting 2. One of them is quoting getting dirt from the farmer's market, the other's quoting hauling it in. That's not apples to apples.
Right, it depends on whether if you took alternate one, they didn't take alternate two, and took sports car, you don't, they assume get money for the dirt for the farmer's market that they weren't able to. You mean, you don't know where they're getting from. We know there's a need of about 200 loads of dirt.
Right.
Where they get it, you know.
That's what I'm saying. There's needs 200 loads of dirt. We have one company quoting to haul it in and one company not quoting to haul it in.
That they're assuming to get it, so.
Correct.
And correct me if I'm wrong, if we went through that, let's say you took sports cars that went in, whatever, and there's a need for 200 loads of dirt, and you didn't take option two, their bid is still 1,992. That's still in the coincide. We verified that on bid day, that they gotta get the dirt from somewhere.
Steve,
Yes, ma'am.
did you say about cutting out? Did you say that the difference in the two tracks, or is just the warranty, the 5-year and the 10-year, just the warranty?
No, it's a different surface, but there is also a different warranty. Yeah, no, it's not, you got a higher warranty, but it's a different surface.
Okay.
So if you want to table this till on the night. Now, let's see, who's gonna be here on the night? Was somebody gonna be out on the 19th?
I think everybody but Kelly, right? Kelly, you couldn't be here on the 19th?
No, I can't.
Okay.
Everybody but Kelly.
She couldn't go either way. so. All right, so we'll table it till the 19th, and then the questions that that's the thing about whether or not one includes dessert or not, that's the list they would assume. I mean, they may say, yeah, we, see what I'm saying, I mean, we asked them, but, the numbers,
So they had to haul in about
They had to haul in 100 loads or 200 loads or 300 loads. They had the same calculations that everybody else had. They got it equal. Or on hauling in dirt. So I guess what I'm asking what information.
I got all the information. I made my motion, so, and I'm gonna stick with that. I was just trying to understand.
We talk about the dirt, that's, he along with Forest they come up with the same number, make it correct, and the other three came up with more dirt, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Just throw it out there, sport tires, yeah, could be.
Alright.
Yeah, they come back and say, well, the architect said it takes this much dirt, so when they do a change order, when they gonna run it?
Now, once the 1.9 from Sports Turf, regardless of what happens, that's their bid. Period.
So they have to go back to architect.
That's correct.
Not really.
They need more dirt, they gotta eat that cost.
But as I said in the last meeting, it was an assumption on the civil engineer's part that they were gonna take alternate one. It's not anything finite. It was an assumption on his part that the reason that their bid was lower was because they were assuming we were gonna take alternate 2.
So, is there anything anybody else needs from us that we get?
I have a quick question. If they don't have to haul in dirt and we approve a certain amount, are they gonna charge us that amount even if that doesn't cost them that much? If they don't have to haul in all that dirt, they're gonna still charge us the
Yeah,
same?
because you're not, that was their bid, and you're not listing it as an allowance. If you put something as an allowance in a contract, then there's certain allowances, like there's everyone says HK Rich bids $2,129,000. There's an allowance in the whole thing for unsuitable fulls, and I don't know, I'm just pulling a number out. Let's say there's unsuitable fulls, and the allowance is $25,000. I'm just throwing a number out. If there's not any unsuitable fulls found, then you don't get that allowance back. You'll let. But if it goes over that, then the amount of the contract goes up on the floor, because that's something you can't determine. Because you don't know what's under there when you peel it all back. I mean, all on there, you know?
Then we won't be on to
That's right. All right.
Let's start for a while,
Get on. So we're gonna take, so we basically, just so I'm clear, we have one bid, or one option that is Sports Turf, base bid plus alternate 1 plus alternate 2 minus the paving and striping, and that's 3 to 3. Then we have BJ Reed, base bid, alternate 2 minus the paving and striping, and that was 3 to 3 as well. So that's where we are. Just want to be sure that. Okay. I mean, that's the ones we have, so, all right.
and not to prolong it anymore, but just food for thought. I do like this letters, I do. And while we're doing it. If we can afford it.
Go back to here, if we did that, I can promise you right now, it would prolong, but just knowing the numbers, we'll have to go back and refigure this. I know we couldn't automatically probably go and do the state evaluation, right, but also we could do that right now. So, if you can do one or the other.
Oh, the concession stand and the restrooms and the, yes,
Tell what it is.
yes.
Unless somebody wants to know over $600,000, you don't want to get it. All right, we're ready to move on, right? We're gonna table it till August the 19th, and which is here, at, 12:15, August the 19th, 30. All right, now I've got an on sidetrack here with my agenda. Right, next on our items, we have fiscal accountability, Dr. Smith. If you were here to talk about our SPOS outline and the financial statement and the purchase orders. We have this, while you're here, and just go through them all through.
Okay, all right, let's do it. So, on the SPOS, we have, when we compare this July to last July, you all have that sheet in front of you. So the increase is an increase of around 91,000. So everything is going well on that. Just keep in mind, this time next year we'll be finished with this 2017 SPOS. And we'll hopefully having a surplus as well to be looking at. The next one you should have in your packet is the comparative balance sheets, comparing July this year to July of last year. Yep, they're running very close. In fact, the fund equity is a little bit more, and that's encouraging. So assets and liabilities are running about in line with what they were about a year ago. Any questions about that? Okay. We'll go on to the comparative statements of revenues and expenditures. Again, this is just another breakdown of the total revenues. If you compare the fiscal year to date for this year compared to the budget, the column out the side of it, you can see that we closed with 106% of our revenues, roughly around $3.6 million more than what was budgeted. Compare that to last year, and we collected around the same time 98%. And revenues should pretty much all be in, so I think revenues, these aren't final numbers for June 30th, but they are, they should be very close. There shouldn't be any more that we're actually posting for June 30th at this point. On expenditure wise, if you compare the budget to where we actually are, we've only actually spent 93% of the budget, compared to this time last year was at 94%. And that very next page shows you the surplus of revenues over expenditures at $135,000, and that's pretty close. That's exactly how a budget is supposed to perform. Budget is supposed to be, you only budget what you need, and you shouldn't have, even though you'd like to see money added to the fund balance, you should be able to get very close, and $135,000 is very close. Revenues over expenditures. But if you look, the fund balance, the estimated fund balance is, when you compare the $13 million that we're estimating versus the 5.9 that was budgeted, the increase, that $7 million difference, is tied mainly to the fact that the austerity adjustment that was made by the state. The budget was formulated based on the fact that there was going to be an austerity cut, Then the state came back mid-year and said, we're not gonna do that yet. So that was what allowed you this fiscal year to go back and get the 2 days of furlough pay. And we still, even by giving back those 2 days, we still had 135,000 surplus. So that's why that 13 million is so much more than the 5 million that was actually, almost 6 million that was proposed. So we're doing very well. Any questions about those numbers? Okay, the next page you have should be the, I think you're wanting CARES 2. Yeah, you got
It's not, I mean,
It's- But it totaled up to $1,600 so far. So $1,600 more than we had when we started. But the LGIP, of course, their investments are sitting right at 5.6 million. And so we're continuing to earn interest on that. And as soon as we get paid back for Gladden and some of the other projects that Northwest and some of the other projects that we had, then that investment will continue. I'll put all that money in investments and hopefully the interest will continue to grow. So the remaining packet that you have are those additional funds that now that you'll see every month. I always put CARES Act first, so that you can see that we've spent about 65% of the CARES Act funds. We're about $3.9 million. We have 2.1 of that left, and actually that's been, we've rolled that over into FY22, so we're actually spending that now. I think we've got about $1 million of that already in open purchase orders for July. Any question on CARES Act? We haven't got into CARES Act 3 yet, but we will.
This might not be one for you. I'm sorry, I got water. Okay, the supplies like Lysol wipes, or Clorox wipes, Lysol spray, are we furnishing those for everybody?
Yes, correct, through the surplus that we have, right?
Partially, we haven't bought any Lysol for anybody, but we have developed a plan to purchase wipes for everybody.
Okay.
We have that in CARES Act too.
Okay, but aren't children being asked to bring that? I mean, if we're buying it.
They did, and some principals sent some items out, and we didn't want to recall that. What we're doing is, whatever parents get and bring, we don't want to send a mixed message, but we're not gonna ask for any more, but we're not gonna ask for, parents to bring any additional supplies, whatever is brought, because it was already put out there. Whatever is brought, and that's it. So we're not gonna ask for anything. But some bring things, so we're not gonna, just so it didn't look like you put something out there and then bring it back. So,
Michael, we still fogging any weekends or?
We're not fogging unless there's a reason for us to go out and do that fogging, but we do have machines that are still available to that if we need it.
We haven't had anything for summer school, but we'll probably, since it's one of the things we've got the capability to do that, we probably will before school starts. We hadn't talked about that yet, but that's one of the additional things that we consider doing. So
I guess that's gonna depend on what happens.
It depends on what happens. The world is a different place than it was a week ago.
Absolutely.
And also in CARES Act too, I think I could speak for the principals that are here tonight, that they're probably very thankful for that allocations that they have been given to use for school supplies, staff development, fine arts, media, centers, library, books. I think everybody's very pleased with what they have provided for their schools this year. and appreciate those allocations going to the school levels. And we're going to continue to do that with your permission in the next school year and the next. So we hope that that makes an impact all the way at the student level. Any question on CARES Act? The next one that I have is school nutrition. I think it might be in the additional packet that I put in the back pocket of your folder. That's the new portion of it's in the book. So we should have all of the, Amanda, you can correct me, but we should have all of the June billing done, receipts are in. So she has a good year in school nutrition with about a $306,000 surplus. So that's great. And she's going to be using that money for equipment.
Do we charge her enough electricity? About a square foot.
The next one you would have, or that I've got, is the prepay. Prepay, we talked about last month, having a deficit of around $59,000. And that is due to the funding that we get from the state. So we'll transfer that money out of our local, general purpose local deficit. That it's going to be around $60,000. And then the rest, and I think that's are the rest of the federal funds. And we're in the process of closing out all those federal funds. There's your Title I, your Title II, that's your CTAE, and your ESS, your special ed funds, federal funds. You should have a packet of the rest of the federal funds there that you get. So I'm not going to take the time to go over each fund, but unless you have particular questions you want me to address, but any carryovers that they have will be carried over into the FY22 year, and that we're closing out all those funds right now in the process of that. So everything looks good as far as the revenues and the expenditures and all those. Have any questions on any of those? Interesting read, I know. But it's good information to know. So, if you don't have any questions on the financials, then I'll move on to the purchase orders. So you've got actually 6 that we're going to be discussing. The first one is enrollment and learning. It's going to be Navigate 360, paid from federal funds. Michelle, do you have anything you want to add to that? Okay.
It's all coming out of Title IV.
And it cost us $73,138.70. So that is federally paid for. If not, it will go on.
Is this like for teachers? Is that
It's staff, parents, students, social workers, everybody.
Any questions? Okay, the next one is for technology. Eastern Data is to Chromebooks for the digital teams, am I correct?
Yes, correct.
And $45,405 is coming out of CARES Act too. Chromebooks
For
the digital teams.
the digital team, yes.
What's that?
We had purchased these, actually the way this came about was we had purchased Chromebooks, you had approved a PO a couple months back for Parapros.
Yep.
And what we're gonna do, because all these teachers already have Chromebooks, we're gonna take those Chromebooks actually from those teachers and give them to the parapros and replace them with these, which are kind of a bigger, better, more Chromebook. Some will be easier for them since they're doing so much more than just an average teacher is.
When are you gonna start buying, cyclical replacements?
What was that?
When you start having the replacements.
Cycles.
So that we don't buy, like, 7,000 at a whack, whatever it is.
Aren't you doing 2,000 at a time?
That's what we've been doing, and actually we have a grant out with E-rate right now. If we get approved for that, we've got a grant out for right around $1 million worth that we'll get, coming sometime probably next year.
To replace the $1 million.
How many have we bought, how many will we replace this year? Budget?
This year was 2,000.
How many?
2,000 this year.
Did we tear up 2,000?
No, this was to replace, we replaced all the ones that weren't true Google Chromebooks. They were the converted from Windows to Chrome and that kind of thing.
Can I go back to that last one for 1 second?
Sure.
On the top of that PO, what is social emotional learning?
Mr. Shea?
Well, basically, what you're getting into with social and emotional learning is character education for the students. And the program as a whole is pretty comprehensive. There's behavioral interventions that go with this. If a child gets caught vaping, for instance, they have to go through a module to learn about vaping and what it's doing to their body before they can go back into the classroom or come back to school and do an exam, whatever the situation is. There's also a parent part to this social emotional platform because there's things that parents don't know. For instance, again, if a child got in trouble for vaping at school, the parent could then, the counselor or the teacher, whoever they meet with, the assistant principal, if it's a behavior situation, they can point them in that direction to also learn about vaping as well. There's also staff training on the character education curriculum, as well as look-fors for social emotional qualities with our students. We were actually looking at a program to look for a program right before COVID happened. And if students are if they were experiencing social emotional problems before COVID, I'm certain that they're experiencing them now. And so it's also staff training to help our teachers be on the lookout of what could be happening with social and emotional problems with our students. There's also a section or part for our social workers, specifically to help students with mental health, also teaching about child trafficking and substance abuse prevention for our kiddos. So it's a very comprehensive program, and when we met as a team, because the principals, they were part us coming up with this program, they said, how do we know which parts we need unless we got the entire platform and used it with our entire system? So, and it is 100% federally funded.
Who is in charge of, like a good touch, bad touch? Who is teaching these kids what to do if something happens?
That's what this program is going to help us.
It's got a good touch, bad touch kind of thing?
I have not looked at the scope and sequence for all grade levels, but I'm certain that it's in there somewhere. And if there's something that we need and we don't see it, we can contact the company and they can help tailor our needs as well.
But it would be taught to a class, or if something happens, they get instruction.
Well, it depends on the situation, because like counselors, if they need to use this in small group or one-on-one with a student, they can do that. So it's prevention, but it's also intervention as well.
next one we're looking at is N2Y. That is for an ESS curriculum. I'm assuming it's reading Paula. Yes.
It is a curriculum for our moderate, severe, and profound students. It helps our teachers because those children don't access the standards the same way. So this provides those teachers with the lesson materials. It also has an online component where the children can directly, do lessons and things. But it does guide our teachers because in the past, and they have had this is a new one, but they have had this and it's working really well for our kids. When I came on, one of the things I heard from the teachers were they were just lost. They didn't, it was very difficult for them. They had to create everything for these kids. So it's a renewal of that program.
And that's coming from CARES Act, your portion or our portion?
I think it was from the
Our portion.
portion.
It's coming from CARES Act too. The next purchase order is for technology, again, Eastern Data, teacher CPU units, 45,950, that too is being paid from CARES Act too. And I'm assuming to replace older units, all-in ones.
Yeah, it's like an all-in-one, basically.
And the last one is teaching and learning, CARES Act, 164,851.14. That is a curriculum.
It's our manuals. One of the things that the principals had asked for were additions for them in our reading program, full manuals for all grade levels so that they could really help monitor and support the instruction in the classroom. And when we originally purchased, we did not purchase overage for the administrators specifically, so we are adding on for them this year.
So the principal will have a manual for each.
Yes, ma'am.
Each grade.
There'll be 3 at every school complete.
3 sets.
3 sets for every grade. Yes, at every school.
$16,000 for one set. Yeah, but what's this 164.85 up there?
It's just the way that the new purchase order system prints, it drops.
Over here's the 51.40, okay. So you're getting, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 sets? Or the high schools don't get it, do they?
No.
Just elementaries?
But every school has K through 5.
Right.
Times 3.
Right.
Times 6.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's CARES Act.
Yes. So just those last 4 altogether, over 300,000 with that. Just looking at this approval. So the last one that I think that we should, is if you added in, is for maintenance. It's for Robinson Floors. It is $26,331. It's coming out of local general purpose money. Exterior doors for the Enrollment Center, Eton, pre-K, and technology, correct?
Correct. One of Eton and one ELC is interior door, the rest of them are exterior.
So that takes care of all those, that purpose and that non-purpose. I think the rest of the ones that you received in your email were FYIs. Okay, so the ones you're going to receive from Tricia are going to be FYIs.
Any questions on any purchase orders? All right, first, need a motion to approve the cost outline and the financial statement as presented.
So we,
Motion by Heath,
Second.
Second by Aaron, all in favor? It is approved. Okay. Next item is, purchase orders. Before we vote on the purchase orders, since we do have one that is over 75,000, which is that teaching and learning, which is 164,851, we will need to vote and waive the 14-day policy for anything over 75,000. So I need a motion that we waive the 14-day waiting period policy for purchase orders over 75,000. Motion by Sparky, second by Heath, all in favor? It is waived. Right now, I need a motion that we approve the purchase orders as presented. Motion by Sparky, second by Renda, all in favor? Did you vote? I'm just making sure. It is approved. All right.
All right, next, under academic achievement, we have field trips. There's two, that we have on there, Monroe County High School 2022 thespian conference for competition, I guess, and then state one act competition. Any questions about that? Yeah.
2 adults for 20 students. Good students.
Just one match. You have to go. Put the pistol down, 3 go.
No, that would be 21 students.
Any questions on field trips? All right, then I need a motion that we approve the field trips as presented. Motion by Heath, second by Renda, all in favor? They are approved. All right.
We have these fields here.
Okay. All right.
Alright, under high performance cultural workforce, we have one policy, JB and CED in regards to transfer, and with all, Mike, if you want to talk about the policy.
It's in the back of the, any additional
Yeah, this policy addresses something that we've, an issue that we've faced over and over again, board meetings and other ways, in terms of districting, and we have had a lot of appeals that have come before us, where certain students have been in particular feeder patterns for a number of years, and then their parents, moved to another feeder pattern and then forced to move. So, this change here would allow for a grandfathering, so to speak, provision where if a student has been in a feeder pattern for 3 or more years and elects to stay in that feeder pattern, they can, as long as they meet certain requirements that are similar to our requirements that we have for our out-of-county students. The only thing that I might suggest you change, because it makes sense in out of county, it may not make sense in county when somebody's been here for a number of years, is section 3D, which requires that the student to participate in extracurriculars. The thought being that if they've been in our district for a period of time and haven't been involved and everything's going well, should we make them all of a sudden get involved? That's just the thought. So that's the policy change that we're talking about.
Any questions? Well, I think what I'd like to do is wait the main
What about the changes you just talked about, how we do that? Can we do that?
Yeah, you can vote on it and,
I mean, every kid's not gonna do an extracurricular activity. And this says they shall participate, so that's kind of like you're going to.
It was just consistent with those that were out, you know, that we made, that out of district we let come, and we require them to regard their participation. We don't have to, this can be struck.
just vote on it, drop to the sections.
I understood.
Well, y'all, we knew what
Hey,
that's what
Mike,
Yeah.
so I'm just thinking of a scenario, if there's a kid at Chatsworth Elementary. I've been there, they're fourth grade, parents moved to North End. They got a sibling that's about to enter school. And we let that parent take one kid to North End and one kid.
I just follow that.
Not in this part, that's what we kind of discussed that the other night, was we had one that came and she was fine with theirs going to the middle school. And they staying in the people house they moved to, and the other one going to the other people house. So, I mean, we're just basing it off of, either you can get in 100 different scenarios. So, we're just trying to eliminate the most common scenarios that we have, and then others, when you get to the point where, you know, then you just come and see what the specific case is before we go.
Yeah, if you make too many exceptions, you just consider our policy. That's what it is.
like I said, I just think that there should be some sort of deadline between elementary and middle and high school. That's just, because we have a lot of movement in this county. They move all the time. And if you have them, and it's like, well, I went to first, second, kindergarten, first and second in the north, well, then they moved to south. But they're like, well, I'll take them forever up there. But then they get another kid, well, they gotta go down here. You know what I mean? That's just what I see happening, I guess, is.
Yeah. Oh, there's a ton of issues.
I think you're gonna have a lot of kids that's not going in their district.
Any further questions, what's the board wishes to be waive the main readings and go and approve it? And you
Approve it with the change that Mike suggested to 3D. Is that what you're asking?
is the, oh, what Brenda has talked?
No, everything doesn't have to participate next to
They don't participate if they're not already participating.
Yeah, with that change, it would be.
That's for only in county.
Yeah, this does not affect the out-of-county tuition students.
And then the other variable you have there, it's 3 or more consecutive years. These are 3, you leave it up, and that's what I said, it's a recommendation, it's a board policy, so that's what the board has to decide.
Most of the kids expect it just middle or high school, so I think 3 years is good done myself.
Are you saying middle and high school?
For everybody, I say the ones that's going to affect middle and high school most of them.
So we're waiting readings? We're waiting readings? I make a motion to waive readings, we move on.
So,
You said that, please?
yes.
Got a motion by Aaron to waive the main readings, improve policy JDCD. That one change. And I got a second from Spark. All in favor? Any opposed?
Yeah, she out. She went to dinner, she had reservation.
Okay, the next item we have is, the, student handbook. We provided a copy of that at the July meeting. There were some changes that we struck item 2 off the agenda, for that. So moving on to item 3, student handbook. We went over that in July, we had a copy of it, so all requested to read, and I think we had some changes recommended by he, and those have been incorporated into the handbook in regarding the shorts, and it being applied equally to boys and girls.
That's right.
So, I'll run again to Mr. Tuck.
5 inches, above the knee, as opposed to the longest finger, which works out, we did a test, it works out about 5 inches anyway. But,
Could you say that part again?
yeah, the shorts, 5 inches,
Top of your neck.
from the top of the knee. Or from the, top of the knee down. That's the length.
That's how I remember it. Okay.
We did a test.
But anyway, and then also, in light of the policy that's just been changed, we're going to have to amend the districting policy within the handbook. Other than that, it's the same as previously said. Any questions on the handbook?
On the handbook. Handed it out, and then we have to vote.
We're voting on both the Pleasant Valley and the regular handbook. Both of them will make those changes.
Any further questions? I need a motion that we approve the student handbooks for 2021 and 2022 with the change that was mentioned.
So,
Motion by Aaron. Second by Heath. All in favor? They're all approved. All right, next, I need a motion that we go into executive session. Motion by Heath, second by, all in favor?
I do.